This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. With free weekly content and free shipping over $100, you can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMuddstah. I'm also sponsored by Face to Face Games, Canada's premier Magic the Gathering store. Using the promo code MTGMuddstah will get you 5% off site-wide, with eligible orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the Generic Goblin Gang. This video was made possible by the help of Chris. Big thanks to him for taking the lead on editing this one and bringing to life such a sweet game for my viewers. You can check out his YouTube channel, Truth Hero, where he covers all kinds of anime topics with a specific focus on My Hero Academia. Hey gang, and welcome back to Modern with Muddstah. First up, we have Archa returning to the channel, playing blue and white Hammertime. The strategy of the deck is to use creatures to either tutor for Colossal Hammer and then equip onto and smash for face. New to the channel is Etienne, playing green and black Yawgmoth. This is a combo-based deck using Yawgmoth's -1/-1 counters and Undying to draw through your deck and typically combo off with Blood Artist. For game 1, both players mulligan down to 6, and Etienne wins the die roll to start us off. He plays a Blooming Marsh and casts a Young Wolf, passing. Arja draws, plays an Urza's Saga, and casts a Springleaf Drum and then an Ornithopter. He then taps the drum and the thopter to play Sigarda's Aid and passes. Etienne draws and plays out an Overgrown Tomb, shocking himself for 2. He then casts a Scavenging Ooze and moves to combat. He swings the Young Wolf for 1 and Arja takes the hit. After that, he passes. Arja draws and plays a Stoneforge Mystic. This grabs him a Colossus Hammer as it comes in, and with that in hand, he passes turn. Etienne's turn is quite quick as he draws and plays a Wall of Roots. With nothing else, he passes. Arja draws and floats a Cullis in his main phase to the Urza's Saga before sacrificing it and going to find a second hammer, putting it to field. He gets to equip it thanks to the Sigarda's Aid, and it goes onto the Stoneforge Mystic. He then casts his second hammer, also attaching it to the Stoneforge Mystic. He then taps the Ornithopter with the drum and plays out a Shadow Spear, and gives it to the Mystic once more. He then moves to combat, swinging the massive 22/23 Trample and Lifelinking Stoneforge Mystic, which Etienne blocks the Wall of Roots and Scavenging Ooze, but still takes 15, while Arja gains 22 life. With nothing else, he passes. Etienne draws, but with no answer to the Stoneforge Mystic, scoops it up, and we move to game 2. At this point we would normally break down the sideboarding, but unfortunately because it was the last round of the night and everyone wanted to leave afterwards, we didn't get a chance to record their mindset or what they were swapping in or out. That being said, let's move to game 2. Both players keep their starting 7, with Etienne being on the play this game, and he plays a Forest and then casts an Essence Warden. Archa draws and plays a Plains and casts a Giver of Ruins, with Etienne gaining 1. Etienne draws and plays a Yawgmoth, Cradle of Growth, and then pays 2 green for a Strangleroot Geist, gaining 1 as well. He then goes to combat and hits Archa for 2 and passes. Archa draws and plays the Urza's Saga, which makes his deck so good, and then taps 2 for a Stoneforge Mystic, gaining Etienne 1 as it comes in. He goes to find a Kaldra Complete, putting it to hand, and passes. Etienne draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs, sacrificing it and losing 1 to go and find a swamp. He then plays out Grist the Hunger Tide, and down ticks the Walker to sacrifice the Geist to try and kill the Giver of Ruins. Archa responds by giving his Mystic protection from green, and the Giver gets taken out, and the Geist comes back thanks to Undying. Etienne then moves to combat, sending the Geist in, and Archa is able to block with his protection from green Stoneforge Mystic, chumping the combat step. With nothing else, Etienne passes. Archa draws and upticks the Urza's Saga, and then in his main phase, casts an Ornithopter. He follows up with a Springleaf Drum, and taps the Thopter to add a white to cheating Kaldra Complete using the Stoneforge Mystic. This has Etienne gaining 1. Moving to combat, Archa swings the hammer at Grist, taking it out, and passes. Etienne's turn has him drawing and playing a Nurturing Peatland. He then plays out an Ignoble Hierarch, gaining 1, and goes to combat, swinging the Geist back at Arja to deal 4. In his post-combat main phase, Etienne plays another Grist, upticking him to make an insect token, but unfortunately mills a Yawgmoth. After that, he passes turn. Archa draws and floats one colorless, and then sacrifices the Urza Saga to go and grab a Colossus Hammer. He then casts a hammer with the floating colorless, and taps the Ornithopter to the Springleaf Drum, using it to help cast a Pure Steel Paladin and gaining the Tien 1 as a creature comes in. This will allow him to negate his equip costs, and he puts the hammer onto Kaldra Complete. He follows it up with a second Colossus Hammer, drawing a card off the Paladin as he casts it. This also goes on Kaldra as well. He then swings 25 at Etienne, who declares no blocks, and drops down to 2 life. With nothing else, Archa passes. Etienne draws, and plays another Nurturing Peatland. He then upticks Grist, milling another Grist, which lets him mill another card, which is an Urborg. This gets him 2 bug tokens, which nets him 2 life as they come in. He then convokes a Chord of Calling, going to grab Yawgmoth, and sacrificing an instant to remove a +1/+1 counter from the Strangleroot Geist, and draw a card, but scarily loses 1 life. He then sacrifices the Geist, putting a -1/-1 counter onto the Pure Steel Paladin, and it comes back thanks to Undying with a +1/+1 counter. He also loses another life. Etienne then removes the Geist's counter by sacrificing an insect token to Yawgmoth, drawing him a card, and losing him another life. The card he drew into was Chord of Calling, and he taps enough to go and grab Geralf's Messenger. This, coupled with the Essence Warden, negates the life loss from Yawgmoth, and with 2 Undying creatures creates an infinite loop, and he's able to drain out Archa to death, and we move to Game 3. This time around, Archa decides to be on the play, and he starts off our final game by mauling to 6, while Etienne keeps a 7. Archa plays a Marsh Flats, cracking it and losing 1 to find a hollowed fountain. He then casts a Giver of Ruins, and then an Ornithopter, and passes. Etienne draws, plays a Blooming Marsh, and pays 1 green for an Ignoble Hierarch. Archa draws, and plays an Urza Saga, and then passes turn. Etienne draws, and plays an Overgrown Tomb untapped, taking 2. This allows him to cast Grist, who, upon entering, he upticks the Planeswalker. He mills 1 card, and makes an insect token, and passes. Archa draws and upticks Urza Saga at the end of his draw step. He then plays a Windswept Heath, cracking it and losing 1 to find a Plains, and then casts Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. After that, he passes turn. Etienne draws and plays a Wooded Foothills. He cracks it, losing 1 to go and find a forest, and then casts a turn 3 Yawgmoth. He upticks Grist to make an insect token, and then sacrifices both insects to Yawgmoth, drawing 2, losing 2, and taking out the Giver of Ruins. Etienne then passes turn. Archa draws, and in response to the Urza Saga's final chapter, makes a Construct token. Etienne responds by sacrificing his Ignoble Hierarch, and puts a -1/-1 counter onto Lavinia, and draws a card. Archa then sacrifices the Saga, and goes to grab a Pithing Needle, and names Yawgmoth. He then plays an Inkmoth Nexus as his land for turn, and passes. Etienne draws, and plays an Urborg. He then plays an Outland Liberator, and sacrifices it to destroy the Pithing Needle. Etienne then follows up with a Young Wolf, and sacrifices that to Yawgmoth to kill Lavinia, losing 1 and drawing a card. He then upticks Grist, milling a card and making an insect token, and passing. Archa draws and plays an Ornithopter. Moving to combat, he swings the Construct at Grist, which Etienne chumps with an insect token, and he then passes turn. Etienne draws and plays a Nurturing Peatland. He upticks Grist for an insect token, and then casts an Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing it for another Undying creature. He then uses Chord of Calling to go and find a Blood Artist. This creates an infinite drain loop again, and Etienne takes Game 3, winning the match. So looking over at MTG Top 8, which may or may not be the best resource for this, it seems like Hammertime and this Yawgmoth deck both fall under the combo category, with Hammertime being a bit more popular. They seem to pair up in an interesting way, with Hammertime being able to take a lead if it had an aggressive start, whereas the longer games were favored more to the Yawgmoth deck. Even though I wasn't able to record what was in the sideboards, I know that Hammertime definitely brings in Lavinia. This is, I'm assuming, to stop Chord of Calling, which finds a lot of the combo pieces in the Yawgmoth deck. As for the Yawgmoth deck, I believe the Outland Liberator was a sideboard card, and I'd imagine if he's running them in his sideboard, Etienne probably brought in more copies of Force of Vigor, as they seem like such amazing cards against an artifact-heavy deck. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.